What's that going to be using for?
Was a 66 pounds, a little guilty as I counted out the bills. What a thrill I got when I sat behind the wheel. I opened up the glove box and that's when I found the note. The date was 1966 and this is what it wrote. Said my name is Private Andrew Marlowe. It's your this that I do leave you alone. But for every dream that's shattered, another one comes true. This car was once a dream of mine, now it belongs to you. Though you may take her and make her your own, you'll always be riding with Private Moon.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's always good to have
Maybe we get to show them. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Even though it's 50s, whatever today.
You guys have done a nice job.
Thank you all for coming. The best newspaper? It's obviously the front page.
But I have like free range just to like move the camera constantly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. As long as, I mean, you can see what's on screen.
Yeah, but I'm gonna make sure that I keep it in frame, but I'm still gonna do it to each person talking good.
Okay, so it is just playing random songs.
It was early in the morning when he rode into the town. He came riding from the south side, slowly looking all around. He's an outlaw, loose and running, came the whisper from each lip, and he's here to do some business with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. In this town there lived an outlaw by the name of Texas Red. Many men had tried to take him, and as many men were dead. He was vicious and a killer, though he was 24, and the notches on his pistol were 1 in 19 more. 1 in 19 more. Now the stranger started talking and playing the folks around. Was in Arizona, ranger on the range along in town. He came here to take an outlaw back alive from maybe dead, and he said it didn't matter, he was after Texas Red. Wasn't long before the story was relayed to Texas Red. But the outlaw didn't worry about the trial forward day. Twenty men had tried to take him, 20 men had made a slip. 21 would be the ranger back the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. The morning passed so quickly, it was time for them to meet. It was 20 past 11 when they walked out in the street. Folks were watching from the windows, everybody held their breath. They knew this handsome ranger was about to meet his death. About to meet his death. There was 40 feet between them when they stopped to make their play. And the swiftness of the ranger is still talked about today. Texas Red is not to leather or fatally ripped, and the ranger's aim was deadly with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. It was over in a moment, and the boats had gathered around. There before them lay the body of the outlaw on the ground. Oh, he might have gone, but he made one big slip when he tried to match the ranger with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. Big iron, big iron. When he tried to match the ranger with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip.
Oh, yeah.
Test, test, test. This is testing with the live stream on fully. We're gonna up the volume stuff. Hopefully you can hear this version on the live stream. If not, come up the volume. Test, test. This is with the volume a little higher, so hopefully you can hear this coming through the live stream. Hopefully it sounds good. If it does, great. I'm gonna up it up just a tad bit more. Thank you for my sign language person in the bottom. Test, test. This is at volume 4. Might be a bit too loud. Yeah, I'm getting thumbs down. We'll lower it.
That's how we did this.
Like
behind what you're saying.
There he is. There's Laura.
just a little bit. So, do you want me to use this? If you want to, if you see something interesting. But okay. Also, just so you know, the microphone is right here, so they can probably stream can probably hear us really well. But that's fine. So, yeah, we're live. And actually, we're also recording. Yeah, streaming, recording, good. So, you select the shot you want to switch to over here. So whatever shot you want, close, and then when you want to switch, transition. That's it, just so like that, and now we're good between these two. So, well, actually, I don't know what happens. I think if you click it again, yeah. Well, so it's switching. Okay, so that's, and then you get your preview so you know what it looks like, and then transition when you're ready to cut. Okay. And you can also do, I guess a fade. Well, that's switching to this wide shot to wide shot. So you switch to this slide shot.
One last audio session.
During the thank yous, can you mention KUNC? Maybe do a quick mic check.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. A little louder, probably. Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, FRCC. And I want to thank, in addition to Front Range Community College, thank you to Seth. Thank you to Connor. Thank you, KUNC, partner in this, the Front Page, an important work that's part of the student newspapers across Front Range campuses. A really exciting part of Colorado's robust media ecosystem. And of course, many students will be watching this, reading about it. There's going to be a voting location, an early vote location here, Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday. You can vote right here or turn in your ballot. But what a lot of people don't know is if they didn't get it in the mail and they lost it, that doesn't mean you lose your right to vote. You just need to go to a voting center and they print one out for you right there. So it's actually quite easy if you lost it or can't find it to be able to turn that in. You can print out one right here and do that. And they will be able to do it. Also, if you have yours, it's now too late to put it in the mail, put it in a Dropbox. It's recommended. Thank you to the Front Page. Thank you. We're so proud in Colorado of our hardworking journalists, reporters, and of course it's inspiring and exciting to see the next generation of reporters and journalists here at FRCC. I also want to thank a member of my cabinet, Dr. Angie Piccioni, the head of the Department of Higher Education, is with us. Thank you for joining us. Esteemed journalists are covering the news on FRCC campuses, in our communities, of course. How state and federal issues are relevant to your fellow students, also very important. Earlier this summer, I spoke to Morgan for the Front Page documentary about Front Range passenger rail. Was Morgan here? No? Yes, hi. Remember? Yes. That was exciting. In fact, today we just celebrated in Westminster. Were you there in Westminster? We just did a very important milestone in passenger rail. We got a $67 million federal grant for siding on the railroad between Bloomfield and Westminster that we need to be able to make freight rail safer, and it's required before we can do passenger rail. So we got a great federal grant to do that, and that's part of the plans to bring passenger rail Denver, Broomfield, Boulder, Westminster, and then also up north, Loveland, and Fort Collins. That's going to be the first part that we finish. The whole vision is Pueblo and Fort Collins, but the first part will be the northern Front Range, and I hope that that's convenient to many of you to be able to get to school and get to work. But we were able to talk I was able to talk to Morgan about Front Range passenger rail, and it says a lot about the work that you all do, that the Front Page is covering key issues that we're working on as a state every day. The work of a free press is a key part of America's success story, and you are part of making that happen. For some of the students here today, this might be your first time voting. Voting is an exciting opportunity, and it's a responsibility to build the kind of world that you want to live in, and where you can have your voice heard. And of course, each of us have a role to play in building a strong and healthy and vibrant state and country. We are nearing a very special year, 2026. It'll be our 150th anniversary as a state, sesquicentenary, and the 250th anniversary of our nation. So an important reflection point in just 2 years that we will be celebrating both Colorado statehood and America's birthday. And no matter what your opinions are or what party you belong to, The more people who participate in our elections, the stronger our democracy becomes, the stronger our state becomes, and our nation becomes. It's truly our responsibility to ourselves, our neighbors, and our communities to have our voices heard, to learn about the issues and candidates, how they'll impact our daily lives, and to be part of that change. So I want to thank the citizen journalists here at Front Range Community College for helping to share the importance of this message across campus in different forms and different mediums, so more students can be exposed, for hosting this great event tonight to celebrate the importance of civic engagement. With that, I will turn it over to Seth Joncho.
Yeah, Connor. Yeah, let's turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the front page, for allowing me to speak at this event, and to KUNC for sponsoring it. My name is Connor. I'm the president of the Student Government Association here at Front Range Westminster campus. Thank you, all of us, for meeting us here in the cafeteria. I guess I should probably say rotunda. There was probably some kid who planned on playing Minecraft here, and he was not expecting to see Governor Polis here. So to those of you who are just like sticking around, or who are just walking through, stick around, get something to eat. I'm going to be brief, and then we can get to Seth and our panel. But yeah, here's why I think that journalism is not just fundamental to democracy, but also to humanity as a whole. When I first met the host of our panel tonight, Seth, he was driving students with cookies in the parking lot over there to answer his questions about two things: the upcoming election and how people have been enjoying the school so far. Something really interesting about the answers to these questions is how people seem to be completely disinterested in the election, but really interested in the community at school. I feel like maybe that's partially because that's the kind of crowd that cookies attract. But I argue that it's actually more representative of us on a large-scale polling operation. I'm not just saying that the school doesn't enjoy cookies, but that people really care about what happens here on the ground in their everyday lives more than anything about an election. This school is a place that supports the hardworking people that are the foundation of our society. And it lifts them into positions where they can influence the world that they live in. Just the fact that you're here involved in a community that supports education and learning things and second chances means that you care about your future. You care about the future of the people around you, and you care about the future of your community. And if you care about your future, the one thing that you can do above all else is to know what's happening around you, to be informed about the crime and inequity and exploitation that happens every day in your community. Whether that community be Front Range, Colorado, or the world. That is the job and responsibility of journalists. They look out for you so that no one is given the short end of the stick. They are the skeptic of the politician and the businessman and the community leader who hold them accountable when they say that they want to do good. But just as much as it is their responsibility to be the skeptic of the leader, it is your responsibility to be the skeptic of the journalists. To question every word that you read as if it's coming out of the mouth of a child. If they start to exaggerate things or get passionate, you know that this specific kid gives unreliable information. It's your job to question what they say. Even if you agree with what they're saying, it can be hard to question it when it confirms your beliefs. Just like water, information is everywhere, and we need it to survive. But it can be poisoned with bias and hatred. And if that happens, the community will grow sick. But if it's pure, trusted, and based on sound evidence, the community will thrive and flourish and live on that information. And just like clean water, access to fact-based information is a human right, and it should be available to everyone. Information is the most powerful tool that you have. People will try to take it away from you with fear and lies, because to control information is to control freedom itself. But no matter the barriers that people place in front of you, you still thrive to strive to learn, to have a voice and a part in this world when others have told you that you have no place in it. When people took funding away from your school, when tuition prices were too high for you to go to college, when you were interested and passionate about something, but a paywall stood between you and that information. Speaking before me today was one of the great representations of democracy. An elected official, we all filled in a bubble to get here. But I would ask you today to think about another type of democracy that this one relies on. The way we think about and spread ideas and the tools that we use to do that. The network of democracy, democratic officials we vote for with our shares, our words, and our conversations. And let us not forget the people who work to give us those tools. In an era of ever-increasing distrust and alternative facts, continue to hold themselves to the high standard required for a healthy and functioning democracy. And without that, without further ado, the host of our panel tonight, Seth Tonja.
Thank you, Connor, for those incredible opening remarks. And thank you to everybody who made this event possible. I do want to say we're currently still waiting on Senator Cutter. She's stuck in traffic, so there's going to be a brief period where we're just going to wait for her. So please, everybody, just enjoy the tacos and we'll play some music and it'll be very nice. Thank you all. Thank you all once again for being here at this event. And without further ado, I'd like to invite our panelists onto the stage in the order that they responded to our emails. Starting with State Senator Barbara Kirkemeyer.
No, you responded like the next day. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Thank you. You want me to sit?
And Adams County Clerk and Reporter Josh Zygielbaum. And last but not least, State Senator Lisa Cutter. Thank you all for being here. Our first question, we wanted it to be a relatively easy question. Why is it important that people vote? And really sort of lay out the stakes of why it matters. Why is it important that that process takes place? Starting with Lisa, since you came on stage last.
Wow, thank you. Coming in hot. So I think that it's incredibly important for everyone to vote because you're a participant in this democracy, and your vote is your voice. I mean, all those things seem kind of trite. We hear it all the time, but I believe in that so strongly that we have to create the community that we want to see. And that is the way to do it, is to participate, even though sometimes it feels like you're not making a big enough difference. Trust me, your vote is absolutely critical to helping to create the kind of world that you want. And researching that vote and understanding the candidates and what they stand for is really important.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. I couldn't hear myself. Very well stated. It does make a huge difference, and I know that sometimes the big national scale, it feels like one vote is minuscule, but it really truly does make a difference. I talk to people as the clerk every single day where, spouses or significant others, or one is one party, another's another party, they just cancel each other out. But it's important, right? It's important to participate even at the higher levels because that does determine the direction that our country and our community can go. But even more important, it matters to vote at the local level because those are the individuals who are controlling, where does Front Range Community College go? Where does it expand? Where does a new development go in? What new businesses can come in? What measures can be put on the ballot for tax increases? School board races, right? What our kids are going to be learning. So it really does truly make a difference here locally. As a clerk, I can't tell you how many times we've had to recount a race because they are so close. We have to verify that it was, actually accurate because I'm talking, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 votes apart in total. So in a smaller setting, it really does make a difference. And we've had the experience where I've actually pulled a Lego. Let me back up on that one. So when there's a tie, okay, the way we do it here in Colorado is we'll actually, in our office, we'll assign a Lego that's a certain color to a particular candidate. So if there's a tie, those Legos will then go into a bucket of sorts, and then you fish it out of the bucket. And whoever you pull wins. We've done that a couple of times, right? Which means at the end of the day, the Lego that I'm pulling out is actually the one that decides the election. It's not different all over the country. If you go to Las Vegas, they will play a game of high and low, for example. We'll card out with the fire deck with. Other states, it's settled in court, right? So Vegas sounds fun. We use Legos. It is what it is. But your vote really does make a difference. I don't want to be in a position where I'm pulling a Lego out of a hat. I'm sure in Nevada they don't want to be in a position where they're playing another game of high low. But it is what it is, and that's how we have to decide it. And so every time you feel like, oh, my vote's not going to matter, or you hear somebody say, that's not going to do it, it won't make a difference, it truly does, especially here in these local races. But regardless, get out and vote. Like the Senator said, it is your voice, and it's the way to be heard.
Thank you. So, State Senator Bart Kirkemeyer, I also sit on the Joint Budget Committee. So first of all, I'm just going to tell you the reason that we need to vote. Because that's your way, it's your voice, but it's also your way of setting what the vision is for the state of Colorado and how we move forward. I think there's at least 30 ballot initiatives. Some are propositions, some are measures that are going to affect our Constitution. Our Constitution is not something that we just get to disregard. We have to follow that. We take an oath of office to uphold the Constitution of the state and of the United States. So you get to set the vision. And yes, your one vote does matter. But I want to tell you why you should be voting not only at the local level, but all the way down that ticket. The things that Senator Cutter and I do down at the Capitol impact your everyday life. And here's my best example. In the Joint Budget Committee, we determine the amount of funding that goes to higher education. And that amount of funding also determines what the tuition rate increase will be. So, I don't know, if we get shorted, if we decide to short funding for higher education, instead of an increase of maybe 2%, which we fight for, or 3%, you could have up to a 5 or 6% increase. Those were some of the things that were on the table last year during the budget discussion with regard to funding higher education. It makes a difference. On the Joint Budget Committee, there are 3 state senators, there are 3 state representatives. It's a pretty even committee. We have a lot of rules that make sure that the majority party can't run over the minority party, to make sure that we are governing in the best interest of the people of the state of Colorado. So think about it, 6 people. 6 people who have the first say in what your tuition increase could be. You have the opportunity to vote for those folks. And then it goes to the whole body. So 35 senators, 65 state representatives make a difference and an impact on how much your tuition could be. That's why you should vote. That's just one example of how what we do at the Capitol, what's going on in your local government, whether it's a school board, a fire district board, a county commissioner board, they impact your everyday life, and it's your way of saying, hey, this is how I want things to go in my state, in my city, in my county, and in my school district. So go have your say. It's your opportunity.
Thank you. Second question. Maybe not as easy.
We're going to give it to the clerk then.
What sorts of challenges do Coloradans face in becoming informed voters and avoiding disinformation, and biased media?
I'll take this. There is biased media, and I think a lot of people now, and I think the challenge actually is for candidates, because a lot of people now get their information either right here in the palm of their hand, pretty split second. Sometimes if you don't do your research, as Senator Cutter spoke to earlier, you can get a lot of misinformation in there. But here's the thing that I think really changed campaigns and how people get their information. A few years ago, Amendment 41 was passed. Again, amendment, if you were old enough, you could have either voted for or voted against. And what it did is it put a limit on the amount of funds that we can raise as candidates to run for office. It's $450 per individual. Races cost in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to run a campaign. So think about it, $450. So what happened was, after that passed, all these other groups sprung up. All these groups that some of your members are sprung up, right? Non-for-profit groups, 501c4s are called dark committees or education committees. But people can hide where they put their dollar amounts that they want to contribute, and then they go out and they campaign. And then there's also what's called independent expenditure committees. They can raise a lot more than $450 per person. They can raise thousands and thousands of dollars from an individual. And then they go out and essentially campaign and put out stories about possibly lies. I think we've both been there, right, Senator Cutter? They distort our records, they distort our comments, they take things out of perspective. And we have nothing to say about it. For example, I was in a race, and independent election committee went after my opponent. I got called out. They're like, you need to tell them to stop doing that. I have no control over it. We have no control, essentially, over our campaigns. So while myself and Senator Cutter are trying to run positive campaigns, talk about ourselves, talk about what we do, there's all this other money out there that is talking all this other nonsense that we have no control over. So that's some of the bias. It's not necessarily media. I think the media tries to do as best they can. There's a lot of groups, though, that, again, are on these social platforms that are one-sided. They may lean Republican, they may lean Democrat, they may lean unaffiliated, Green Party, Libertarians. They all have their special bent on things. And I would really, as Senator Clerk said earlier, do your research. Make sure that you're following and make sure that what they're telling you is correct.
It's a really good way of putting it. Running for office, there have been things I found out that I did apparently through postcards and things. I was like, yeah, that was interesting. I'm glad I experienced that. Did that. Would have been nice if I knew about it before this piece came out. So it does happen. One thing that we see, especially dealing with the election and this disinformation pretty regularly, is AI has become an issue. It's something we've all experienced. If you're on social media ever, you've experienced it in the last presidential election, and it's on both sides. The last presidential election, there was actually a New Jersey AI-generated phone call that now the current President Biden supposedly did, saying that the one party can't vote on Tuesday, which is election day, they have to vote on Wednesday. Right? That's a classic one, by the way, so that make the other party vote Tuesday. But so there's that format where it's, where it can come out in audio or it comes out in images. If you look at images that you see on Facebook or Instagram, if it sparks emotion, which is the intent of these things, take a look. How many fingers do you see? Oftentimes you'll see, 6 or 7 on one hand when you should see 5. It is possible to get more than 5 fingers, but you shouldn't have 12 on one hand, right? Those are AI generated. Or if the image of it is just so crisp and so clear that it just doesn't look correct, it's probably not, right? But it is designed, and they do to spark emotion, spark a response, and they are very effective. That's why it continues. I actually just received a election security report this morning from one of our federal partners warning about additional AI type of disinformation coming from Iran, Russia, North Korea, and some of our usual partners or adversaries, I should say, across the world. But just be on the lookout for it. It happens a lot. Don't accept friendship from people that you don't know, right? Or at least have a solid connection to. If you see that picture, think about it before you actually repost it. If your crazy aunt or uncle at the table start spouting off about some sort of conspiracy theory, take a moment and look into it before you actually buy into it, right? So a lot of this information is created by those who are intending to purposely confuse us. That's all I'd have to say in addition to what you said.
Okay, this is my favorite question. I've sponsored legislation on media literacy and on disinformation, so I love this topic. But first of all, I want to acknowledge that I hadn't thought about the dark money angle, but that's absolutely correct. That's a really good point. And you also made some great points about AI and stuff. So it's very deep, the whole thing. In fact, I saw a graphic recently talking about what people think media literacy is, and it's the iceberg at the top, and mis and disinformation, and understanding news sources. But really, below the surface it's so much more complex. I can't even name all the things that they have. But first of all, does anybody know? Who knows what the difference between mis and disinformation is? A few, a smattering. Misinformation is just when, I've done it. You share something that you really thought was true from a good source, and unintentionally. Disinformation is deliberate attempt to mislead you. And so I think that there's a lot to this that, there's foreign influence, which you mentioned. Absolutely. There's Russia, China, Iran trying, this is really important, because they're trying to divide us by perpetuating disinformation. And we all fall for it at some time or another. Everyone falls for it. They are very sophisticated and they don't care, it doesn't matter which side. They're just trying to divide us because that will damage democracy, which is a benefit to them. So that's why we have an obligation to our country and to our neighbors and our communities to really understand the media that we're digesting. Another fact that I heard recently that I think is important is that the more you hear something a certain number of times, and you just, no matter how thoughtful you are about it, you're just more predisposed to believe it. You just keep hearing the same piece of bad info over and over, and pretty soon it's just reality to you. It doesn't matter who you are, how smart you are about it. So we all have to be incredibly vigilant. Deep fakes, AI, all this foreign influence, confirmation bias. Have you ever seen something and you go, oh, yeah, of course that's true. I really try hard to check myself when I see that and make sure that I double check and look at several sources before I share that information or talk about it with anyone else, because that's, I'm trying to be a good citizen in that space. What else did I want to tell you? Oh, there's a few things that I do. I think that I actually don't necessarily agree that all media is good media trying to do the best. I think most of them are, but I think it's really important to understand the bias of media and the, money motivates media, money sources just like it does candidates, right? And so I think it's important to understand that. And there's lots of ways you can do that. Has anyone heard of ad fuentes or all sides? Oh, well, there you go. Write that down. If you really want to know what sources, like I try to consume several sources, and again, double check what I'm looking at. There's something called ad fuentes, and another one called, that puts out this media bias chart, and another one called All Sides. And I like them because they'll say, this is one of them, the ad fuentes, it has like a graph, a visual thing that says, okay, this is a highly factual and accurate and non-biased source. That might be right in the middle. Or this is a very factual but biased to the left. And then they will show the ones completely, not factual at all. They don't fact check. They're a bad source and they're incredibly biased. So that's what I kind of refer to when I see something that I'm not quite sure about. So hopefully that helps, but I just think it's so important to be responsible in that, and hopefully you're all learning about that and thinking about it.
Awesome. There are a ton of statewide ballot measures on the ballot this fall. Why do you think the ballot measure process is an important part of our democracy? And alternatively, what are problems that exist with the process of ballot measures and changing laws via ballot measure?
That's a tough question, actually. Is this on? Okay. So the process is important because it involves everyone, right? This is if you look at Colorado, we're one giant community here in Colorado. Sure, we may have pockets of more localized communities like the town of Westminster or Brighton or Federal Heights or City of Denver or Colorado Springs or whichever it might be, and then neighborhoods within each of those. But it gives everybody the opportunity to participate. One of the laws that did change recently, there's been so many election laws changed over the last few years, it's hard to remember which one is which, but I believe that it was 2 years ago and it required public initiative measures or amendments to go, to have votes from every single county, not just or signatures, from every single county in order to make the ballot, right? It used to just be that if, enough people in Denver wanted it to happen, it would happen. So it really evened it out across the state, and I think that that's the intent, is we want to make sure that we're getting the opinion of everybody, because we all have to live here. And so we should all have an opinion. But this also does, go back a little bit to what we just discussed with mis and disinformation. There can be a lot of mis and disinformation about it, right? There's money that gets involved. I saw a story yesterday that a very large oil company submitted, hundreds of millions of dollars to influence the way an election for a particular initiative goes, right? So money does talk. You may have seen the Washington Post withheld their endorsement for a candidate for the first time in 50 years or something, because money was behind it, right? So money does talk. So even with the work that's been done to ensure that the access to the ballot or to putting these initiatives on the ballot has been done, I think there's still some more work that needs to be done at the state level. Fortunately, it's a higher elected office than my own, so senators. Do what you can to get the money out. It really makes a big difference. I know that it does cost a lot to run for office, running countywide, and trying to get to 500,000 voters is a lot. Just my own campaign, I spent probably $40,000 just on mailers, right? If you think about printing and postage costs, and printing and paper costs have gone through the roof, and it's nuts. But it costs a lot of money to get your message out. And there's a lot of folks out there who have a different message they want to try to manipulate or influence somehow, that's not necessarily from the candidate themselves. But That's still some work that needs to happen, is getting that money out of politics, getting the dark money out of politics on all sides of it, so that the true message and the true agenda of the candidate can actually make its way out there.
Okay, no? Is it on? Yeah, I didn't know so. Okay, I'll jump in real quick. And just, I mean, really, not much to add. I think that you made some excellent points about, like, fundamentally, I think ballot measures are really important. It's important for people to be able to, express themselves that way and get things on the ballot that might be important to the state. But I am deeply, deeply concerned about money, Citizens United. So it's above our pay grade even to take care of some of the money in politics, the big money. Citizens United was a Supreme Court decision several years ago that allowed corporations, for those of you who don't know, that allowed corporations to, be considered a person in terms of donating and spending and influencing things that way. So I think that's a real problem. I think there's a number of ballot measures that corporations and oil and gas and whoever, not just them, have put in huge amounts of money. And what that means is that they can run tons of ads and all kinds of things, and we're all susceptible to that. If you hear, we just talked about it, if you hear that message again and again and again, I mean, that's what you're gonna believe and that's what you're gonna think. As candidates, as people, as small grassroots groups that are trying to be on the other side of some of these initiatives, there's no way they can compete with that. So that I find troubling. If it was more even playing field in terms of money, great. But I think that's really the problem right now.
So, first of all, it is your constitutional right. And it's your way to keep your government in check. And isn't it kind of the purest form of democracy? When you think about it, you get to keep your government in check. There are things maybe that we've done down at the Capitol that you don't like, or that groups don't like. You have the opportunity to go through a process, and it's a process you have to go through. It's a lot different than your elected representatives. We can put things on the ballot pretty much like that. And I will tell you, the first thing I remember when I became a state senator that I was kind of shocked about is, everyone thinks that no matter what their bill is, that it's constitutional, that it passes constitutional muster. That's just simply not true. We pass bills that are not constitutional, and they end up in court, and we find out they're not, right? But it is your way to keep government in check. It's your way to, as an individual, to go through the process. And here's the process. You have to come up with a ballot title. You have to come up with all the language. All that language you see on that ballot, someone has to draft that language and talk about what they're trying to do and why and how they're going to do it. A lot of times, whether it's a constitutional or statutory provision, which requires a different amount of votes, it still requires implementation by your elected representatives. So we have the opportunity to clean some of it up if we need to, right? But you go through this process of where you develop your whole ballot, and sometimes, I will tell you, they'll put in who's ever running it, whichever side it is, whatever group it is, they might put in 20 or 13 or 35 ballot titles to get one of them through. I heard somewhere today, I think it was today, I heard there's already like 400 ballot titles that are submitted for the next election, because it takes a while to get them through. So if you're going through and you have your constitutional right to put something, to petition something on the ballot, elected representatives, we get to just refer it to the ballot. We don't have to go through this process. None of it. So like Proposition HH, that was put on by the legislature. Didn't go through any kind of public debate, didn't have to go through getting any signatures on a petition. So the first step is you gotta go through a board, title board. They check to make sure it's single subject. They check to make sure that it's constitutional. They put in all sorts of things. They throw out a lot of these ballot titles. They just throw them out. People, you can go, the other side can go and argue on the ballot title itself. It's pretty much like coming to a committee meeting and arguing about a law that maybe we're trying to pass, that Senator Cutter or myself are trying to pass. It's the same kind of process. Then, if you get through the ballot title, and it's a pretty rigorous process, then you have to go get something like 250,000 signatures. Is that what it is? You're the clerk, so you would know. It's 250,000 signatures to get it actually on the ballot. You've got to go talk to, and those have to be good signatures. So to do that, they're going out and getting more like 350 to 400,000 signatures, just in case. Because a lot of times you walk up to a door and you'll say, hey, are you elected? Are you a voter? You know, you've gone and become a voter, and a lot of people will think, yeah. Well, maybe they really aren't. But you've got to get 250,000 good signatures. Might be 258,000 dollars. They're thinking about it. But think about how many doors have to be hit. If it's a constitutional provision, you have to get so many signatures around the states. Is it each senatorial district, isn't it? You have to get 35 Senate districts, you've got to go get signatures in each of those. I should have started thinking about Sedgwick. It's a county all the way in the northeast part of our state. There's another one all the way down in the southwest part, Montezuma. You've got to go to all of these counties, 64 counties, to get signatures. That's a lot of signatures. You know what? It's probably a heck of a lot more people that are thinking about that ballot measure than the people who come and listen to us down at the state capitol to pass a law that impacts you just as much. So the debate is there. And then you know what? Then it is. It's very similar to our process. Anyone can come and debate. Anyone can come lobby a state senator or state representative to try and make their point across. Anyone can contribute to my campaign or to Senator Cutter's campaign. Anyone. So it's not so different, but it's your way to keep us accountable. It's the way that the citizens get to keep their government in check when government's gone too far.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's Senator Kirkemeyer laid that out really beautifully. It's all true. It's a very complicated process. But I just want to add, and that's my concern is that I do think that people can have a voice that way, but when you look at getting all those signatures, it's still, I find deeply disturbing that, like, as an individual or as a group, as a grassroots organization, what are the odds that you're going to be able to go out and get that many signatures? It's the money that, so I don't see it the same way in terms of it being purely citizen-led. I think that there's just too much money. It's too involved to get all those signatures. Exactly correct about all the titles. I mean, you got to go through who knows how many titles. That's a very sophisticated process. And I don't think the average person, or even the average citizen, group, activist group, advocacy organization, whatever it might be, has the bandwidth or the knowledge or the expertise, the resources to do that. So that is my only concern, because I think the process is great and citizens having a voice, all great.
So you'll seem to agree that the 250,000 signatures is a lot of signatures that you have to get. Do you think that should be changed, like there should be fewer signatures, or do you think that maybe there's some other type of requirement that, because you can't have 500 ballot measures on every ballot, is there some other way we could, filter through to the really good ballot measures that wouldn't be so susceptible to, hiring a bunch of people to collect signatures or this sort of large-scale organizing effort that kind of makes it less of a citizen holding the government accountable, like you talked about?
How do you hold your elected How do you hold your state representatives, and your state legislators accountable, and your county commissioners and your municipal leaders? You need to get involved. So, to get on the ballot as a state legislator, you can go through a petition process as well. Or you can go through a caucus process, an assembly process. I'm just going to give you an example about my own Senate district, which is Senate District 23. Goes from Topgolf to Timnath along the I-25 corridor. I think you all probably know where Topgolf is. That's my guess. You may not know where Timnath is, but it's way far north. Not that far, but about an hour north of here. So in my Senate district, I have to have 1,000 signatures. So I have to go out and talk to a lot of people. which I love to do. And I do. I go get signatures on petitions as a safety net. To go through the caucus and assembly process, you go to a caucus, hopefully you're all maybe thinking about going to your caucus, maybe you want to be a precinct committee person. You know, it takes a Tuesday night, then you got to go to another thing on a Saturday, your county assembly, then you got to go to another place to go to maybe your state senator's assembly. You know how many delegates were in Senate District 23? This is the number of people who get to vote to determine whether or not I get to get on the ballot, or anybody in Senate District 23 on the Republican side. 150. 150 people get to decide whether or not I should even be on the ballot for the primary. Out of 150 delegates, and I'm running this year for a re-election, 87 showed up to the assembly. Pretty sad. And my district's not that much different than every other district around the state. Pretty darn sad. 87 people. I had an opponent in my primary. She got on the ballot with 27 votes. Pretty incredible, huh? So, that's what I'm saying, you know, and we have in our state legislature, 30 of our legislators out of 100 were appointed by a vacancy committee of those same kind of delegates. Maybe 50 votes, maybe 24, maybe 36, maybe some incredibly low number of people at those assemblies, those vacancy committees, appointing 30% of our General Assembly. So again, having that ability to keep us in check, I mean, not that many people, you know, first of all, put us on the ballot. Once I get on the ballot and once I win my primary, I don't like a 20-point lead in my district. You know, I don't know what Senator Cutter's is, but I think it's probably pretty decent. But, you know, there's people that once you win your primary, it's smooth sailing for a general election. So start thinking about how many people. It's a lot less than 250,000. We only have 175,000 people approximately in our Senate districts. It's like 80 or so, 80,000 people in a state representative district. And we only have to get 1,000 signatures. So 250,000 signatures, I think that should stick. I think that's a good barometer of maybe why it should be on the ballot. And you know what, here's another couple words for you. Personal responsibility. Before you put your name on that signature, put your signature on that line, on that petition, maybe you should understand what you're putting your name to. That's your responsibility. That's not my responsibility. But that's your responsibility to do. Just like it is, as Senator Cutter said, when you go to vote, it's your responsibility to do your research. I mean, we all know, you've all seen marketing and ads. I mean, I heard you talk about Minecraft. You know, think of all the ads and stuff that come up there. So, you know, that's your responsibility. So yeah, I think 250, it's a percentage of the population, and I think that's appropriate. I mean, if we're really going to try and change our constitution or change, you know, law, we need to have adequate public debate. But, you know, everybody else has to do their part, too.
Yes. It's a very difficult question to answer if it is the right number or not the right number. It's certainly a number that was plucked out of thin air. Right? Somebody said, and probably when they were coming up with the committee, said, you know, we should set it at 250,000. Probably wasn't any data behind it. But it is a sizable chunk. Even with, you know, as a county elected official, I have 500,000 who live in the county. There's 349,800 active registered voters in Adams County right now. So, you know, those are the ones that I have to get out to. It's a lot of work. But even still with that, I still only have to get 1,000 signatures to get on the ballot or go through the primary. It's been a couple of years, so I don't recall the exact number, but it was probably pretty similar, you know, in my assembly. That, you know, only, you know, 100 people show up to the thing, maybe 50, and half of them are elected officials or people who are trying to get on the ballot. So it's, you know, definitely not, I think, a perfect system, but it's a system, and if we all participate in it, it can work, right? One of the challenges that I see to it is, again, money in politics, is there are actually companies out there who will fly in signature gatherers. and they'll pay them as employees. They come, they'll stand out in front of King Supers, and there's limited accountability on what it is they are saying. Personally, I wanted to test what was happening, so I was on the way out of King Supers one day with my groceries, and there's a signature gatherer there who said that if I signed this, it would keep pedophiles in prison, and it had nothing to do with that. I happen to be educated because I'm the clerk, but I called them out on and reported it to the Secretary of State's office because I'm the clerk, and it's the right thing to do. But there's no guarantee that what they're telling you, especially when they don't have a vested interest in the community themselves, is actually going to be whole and accurate. So definitely not a perfect system. Totally agree with you. It's something that we do need to be educated in and participate in. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here because obviously all of you are engaged in this process and are probably more educated than some of your loved ones or counterparts who aren't here tonight. But it's definitely, democracy takes work and it takes people who are interested. And I think that if we want to see a bigger fix than changing the number, we'll get more people involved in participating in elections and the whole process as a whole.
Okay, there we go. I agree with both my colleagues. Excellent points. I think that being involved is we've all talked about it, critically important. But I also think that young people in general, maybe you guys may be the exception, but it feels like young people in general are disenfranchised. Don't feel like they can influence any change. And I think that moves right back to the money. Right? If you as a citizen don't have the same kind of power, as a corporation or some wealthy individual, because they can buy the results, essentially. And not all of them are bad actors, but a lot of them are bad actors. And also, it's just fundamentally not fair. I really believe in fairness, and it's not fair if someone can go out and pay all those people to get, gather signatures and whatever, and we as people have to scrap and blood, sweat, and tears, and they can fly people in and spend ungodly amounts of money. So I don't think it's fair. I think that basically the system, 250 seems pretty reasonable. It may be arbitrary, but it seems, as Senator Kirkemeyer said, it seems pretty thoughtful. The whole process, I think, is pretty thoughtful, and I don't think we at the state level can change that necessarily, but I think it's the money behind it. So I guess as individuals, just be aware, just know. There's a lot out about the ballot issue, initiatives now. You can look. There's been a lot of articles about the money influencing some of them. So, and maybe you're in alignment with that. Maybe that's okay. But just be sure that you know and understand. I think that's what we can do as citizens.
Incredible. Speaking of ballot measures, on the ballot in this election is Proposition 131, which would establish ranked choice voting for the U.S. Senate, U.S. House of Representatives, Governor, Attorney General, Secretary of State, Treasurer, CD Board of Regents, State Board of Education, and state legislatures. What are sort of the opportunities that would bring? What are the challenges that would bring? I'm especially interested from...
That's what's in my wheelhouse.
There we go. All right. So this one is directly impacts the clerk recorder's office and voting. It essentially changes the format of how we run our elections to be ranked choice voting. So instead of having, two candidates on there with, one political party, another political party, you have a plethora of candidates on there. Everyone qualifies to get on the ballot, and you put a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many there are on there, and that's your preference. And that's very simply what ranked choice voting is. Then as the administrator of the election, I'm then responsible with my staff and all the community members who come in and participate as election workers that get paid, but they're there contributing their time. We all have to figure out how we're going to count that up. Because this is on the ballot, because I'm the clerk, I'm going to be as apolitical and down the middle on this and educational as humanly possible. From an administration point, it's going to be challenging. From an auditing point, it's going to be challenging. just because of the sheer number of combinations of different types of votes that there could be. To give you an example of that, for our current election in Adams County, Everett County does a logic and accuracy test where we test all the equipment to make sure that it's picking up every single bubble that's filled in and every possible combination of vote. We had to test 40,000 ballots. We had 50 measures and races and questions on our ballot this time. We had to test 40,000 ballots. If we go towards ranked choice voting, we're looking at testing probably near 1 million ballots just to make sure that the combinations are there. So there's some administrative issues. There's going to be some financial impacts. We're going to have to get new money. We're going to have to get new equipment, which means we need more money. And we'll go after our money trade school. And in the spring we'll get it. There's some tech development that's going to need to happen. So that's one side of it, right? The current systems that are in place, whether you're talking Clear Ballot, Dominion, which are the two approved vendors here in Colorado, neither of them really have this tech in place yet, so it has to be developed. There is a company who has somewhat developed some auditing tools for it, but my understanding of it, I haven't personally worked with it yet, is that they're not fully to where they need to be from a transparency perspective and certainty perspective. So there's some more work to be done there as well. So obviously some investment, right, from private industry is going to have to invest in it, then it'll have to go through an approval process at the federal and the state level once it's been developed. Some tech changes I'm sure we'll have to change at that point because they'll find some sort of bug that needs to get fixed. And then that bug will get fixed, and then it'll go through more testing and so on and so forth until it's finally released into production. But it's a very lengthy process. The current ballot measure calls for it to be implemented in 2026, which is a very short timeline to turn something like this around. And essentially redesigning the entire system from the ground up. So it's going to be a challenge in our elections world. We follow the law, we do what we have to do, so we'll figure out a way to get it done. That's sort of our outlook on life, but it's going to be a challenge. From the public's perspective, it can give the opportunity for more candidates to be involved and to have a wider selection of people, of candidates for people to choose from. You have the opportunity to vote for people on all sides, not just in one particular political party if you're talking about a primary. And so you can have, two candidates from the same party or the top two candidates versus, what we have it now, right? Where you have one of each, essentially, or a third party, for example, can come in as well. But there's ups and downs to it. I don't think there's any particular voting system or format of voting that is necessarily perfect. It all has its challenges, even dating back to the Greeks, when they used to use a black ball and a white ball for voting yes and no on things, right? There's challenges all the way through, but from an administrative perspective, we'll figure out how to make it work. But there are going to be some bumps getting it into place if it does pass.
So, I have a couple questions for all of you. That includes you too, Seth. You're not the only one who gets to ask questions. So, how many of you think that when you vote for somebody and you elect them, they should have to have a majority vote? 50% plus one. Right? You should at least have to get a majority vote, right? Over 50%. We've had some pretty key races that hasn't happened in the state of Colorado, including governor races. How many of you think that instead of a vacancy committee, like I talked about before, that state representatives and state senators should actually be elected? Yes? There you go. That's good. And here's the last one. I'm thinking a lot of you maybe are going to be fairly new voters. But how many of you think that you should get to vote for whoever you want to on a primary and determine those top four that go to a general election? There's a primary election, there's a general election. Yeah, you should get to determine that. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, unaffiliated, Libertarian, Green Party, whatever parties out there, Unity Party, we've got several coming up now. So that's what 131 does. and it does ranked choice voting. But it does all of those things. It requires that we have an open primary. In other words, no matter which party you're in, you get to decide the top 4 that go to a general election. It's not 2, it's 4. The top 4. Other places that have had ranked choice voting, or even maybe runoff voting procedures, but the ranked choice voting, what they found is a lot of the negative crap gets removed out of elections. Because you know what? If you're not the first vote somebody has, you want to be the second vote. So if you're tearing down your opponent the whole time, it's kind of a turnoff for people, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to vote for them. And also, instead of having what I call the cringe fringe, and we have them in both parties. I'm not blaming any party here, we all have them, right? But those that are out there on the fringe, the far left to the far right, actually they just don't have as good a chance of winning an election. So I think those are all pretty important points. I can appreciate the clerks and their points about, there are things that they have to get in place to make sure that we run an election with integrity, and I appreciate that. And being on the Joint Budget Committee, I think 2 years ago, I fought to make sure you got a lot of money to make sure that you could pay for, that the state would actually pay for elections that we were holding, and it wasn't the county holding the bag on paying for it, right? So, do I think there maybe are some issues with ranked choice voting that we would need to work through? Yes. But remember what I told you earlier, that as a legislature, we get to fine tune some things. We get to tweak them. This one in particular, it's a statutory amendment. It's a statutory proposition that's out there, 131. So as a legislature, we get to write the implementation of it, and we get to tweak it. Now here's what happened with 131 and ranked choice voting. Makes it on the ballot. Remember I talked about the process you have to go through to get on the ballot. So citizens keeping their government in check and saying, this is how we think things should go. We don't like that caucus process. We don't think that people should get elected with only 47% of the vote. We don't think that 30 out of 100 state legislators should be appointed by a vacancy committee. So they go through that whole long process, get a bunch of ballot types kicked out, end up with basically what is now 131. Want to know what the legislature did at the very end of the session? They put into law, they amended a bill, it was the election bill that was going through, and put into law that a stipulation that you had to have, is it 12 municipalities do ranked choice voting before we can do it on the state. So here's our individuals that go through, and yes, wealthy guy. It's a wealthy group behind him. They're working on this throughout the nation. Goes through all that whole process of the ballot initiative, does all the work, and then the legislature at the last minute kind of pulls that rug out from underneath them. It's kind of infuriating to people. Back to our other question, why it's so important that you have your constitutional right. But it's also, the legislature can do some, I call it sneaky little things, but that's one of the things that we did. I didn't vote for that, but it's something that happened through the legislature. But here we are, we have the opportunity, should that pass, we have the opportunity as legislators to address the concern of our clerks. Because yes, those are legitimate concerns. And to address the funding portion of it. Because yes, that's a legitimate concern as well. So we have that opportunity. Maybe we don't get there by 2026, but maybe right after that. Maybe we get it figured out. Maybe there's other places in the United States, like, Virginia or Alaska or people that do runoffs, I don't know. But maybe there's a way to copy what other people are doing and learn from it, other states are doing and learn from it. Maybe not, but I think we can make sure we have the time to get it as close to right as we possibly can. Do you know every year we have an election bill? At least it feels like it, right? We have an election bill every year. We're tweaking the election process every year. So we just tweak it some more.
This takes a while to work on, I think. So, first of all, I am a fan of ranked choice voting in its purest form. I think for all the reasons that were discussed, I think it's a great idea. I also know that Colorado is widely considered to have the gold standard for election processes, right? And so for us to, this is something that's so so important. Our elections are so important. Our clerks are some of the hardest working public officials. I think we can all agree, really, really hardworking. And it's my understanding clerks were not consulted in this measure that they will have to implement. It's incredibly costly, as you heard. It will be confusing for voters. I don't think there's any question of that. I also know that Alaska is currently, they have a very, very similar model to this, the one that's on our ballot, and they are trying to repeal it. It's on the ballot to repeal. Let's see, what else? Aspen, that's the other one. Aspen has had it for 1 year and went back to the current model because they found it too confusing for both the staff and the community. So it is a very convoluted thing. I think the thing that disturbs me most about it is the piece on the primaries. Again, I believe in ranked choice voting once you get to, the final election. But in the primaries, it would be incredibly difficult. I know that, for example, I would not have necessarily been able to run and to get any significant attention or following if I did not, if I had to run without any support, if there's all kinds of Democrats running and all kinds of, because it gives an unfair advantage to people, again, people with a lot of money that can make a lot of noise and own the airwaves, do tons of ads and postcards and billboards and whatever it is they want to do, mailers. I wouldn't have been able to break through without some kind of structure and some kind of a support, and I think that's true for a lot of candidates. Yeah, so I think it's concerning for that reason, and I hope that it doesn't pass. I think it's about it.
Okay. So we're talking a lot about voting, talking a lot about civic engagement. I'm curious, what do you all think about actively choosing not to vote or to submit a fake, like voting for, I know there was a campaign, I don't remember where it was, but there was a campaign to write in during the Democratic primary as because people were protesting Biden's, the Gaza thing, everybody knows, okay. What do you think about that? Do you think that's like a valid form of civic engagement, is choosing not to vote or spoiling your ballot? Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a terrible idea. I think you've heard from all of us how important your vote is and your voice is. And listen, I don't think the system's perfect. I don't think the candidates are perfect. At any level. I think that we're all human beings and that there's lots we need to do to improve our country and improve the direction, whether it's state, the country, whatever. But a protest vote, or non-vote, if you will, doesn't do anything to move us forward. We may dislike the system that we're in, and listen, I have issues with the system and the structure. I have young people in my life. I have children. They're grown up, but they're still young people, and they have opinions, and we talk about it a lot. And I know there's a lot of people that are disaffected and not disenfranchised, and I understand that. But I don't think that a protest vote is any way to get us there, because you don't have to be married to the candidate, right? You don't have to like everything about them. You have to think they are most closely aligned with you in values, and then work to change it. Again, it goes back to that being involved and doing what you can do to change the system that we have. I worked on the Women's March the first few years here. I was one of the organizers, and so I believe that was our message. Get out there and use your voice, whatever it is you can do to create that change, but honor your vote. Please honor your vote and the power that you have by taking that vote and not sitting it out or protesting somehow.
Are we on? We are, okay. When I was 17, and I grew up in Northern California, I spent time in the Marines, that's how I got out here, but that's a very brief summary of my life. When I was 17, my mom was talking to me about voting, and she said, Joshua, if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. And I thought, that's a good point, right? We hear it constantly, people who do not participate, but then they're upset about the direction that their city is going, or their school district is going, or the country is going. They didn't take the time to really have their voice heard. And your voice may not be the majority. Your candidate may lose. Guess what? That's okay. Every election, one person has to lose. Only one person can win. So every election, more people like one candidate and what they're saying versus one candidate and what they're saying, and it's just sort of the way it is. But it really does make a difference that early on about the close races that we'll have here, and we'll have them again this time, whether it's on initiative or it's on one of our statewide candidates, where it's just real close. It's one of the things I look for on election night, and I quickly do the math in my head to see if we're going to beat it in within a 0.5% difference, because then I know I'm going to have to do a recount or not. Right? So that's more work for me and my team to do. I know we're going to stay there later, and instead of going home at 2, I might go home at 4 in the morning. But it's so important to participate. So if you take any advice on that, just listen to my mom. You don't get to complain if you don't vote, right? In addition to that, in all seriousness, if you don't cast your ballot, you're letting somebody else decide your future. Right? Everybody in here, we're in a community college right now, right? You guys are all actively working towards your future, at least for the students in the room. Those of us who are on the faculty or in some sort of profession already have already gone down that path, right? But you've chosen to select your future, or at least influence it, and this is another way to do that. If you don't participate in voting, or let somebody else pick what it is you're going to be doing. And that's not a way to live life.
All very good points. I would agree with them all. Voting's a privilege. Regardless of who's president of the United States, we live in one of the greatest nations in the world. And if you don't vote, I guess you're telling us you don't like the nation, you don't want to be here, it would be a waste. It would just be a waste. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to get to vote. It's a privilege to have a say. Why would you waste that? I never understand people who say, oh, I just didn't vote for them. You know what? Not voting for somebody is the same as voting no. Same as voting for the other person, somebody else. So, school will know. I just don't understand why anybody would waste it. Be like, how about if you went through your whole class thinking you were going to get a grade, and at the end the teacher said, I don't want to give you a grade. How would you feel about that? You'd think, wow, I just wasted my time. They didn't even give me a grade. I put all that work in, and I wasted my time, and they didn't give me a grade. It's the same thing. Put all this work in, people are putting all this work in so that we can have a great nation, a great state, and then you don't vote? Wow, totally irresponsible. Hope you're not one of those people. And it's true. If you don't vote, you don't get to complain. However, in my years of experience being an elected official, it doesn't stop people from complaining.
Okay, that's great.
What else could others say?
No, actually there's a lot, but I designed it so we would have extra. So this panel is about not just democracy and civic engagement, but also news and media. And I'm curious, what do you think, you deal with journalists, what do you think journalists could do better at? Are there times where you've been frustrated with the media, they're covering something you're doing, and you're like, oh, this is totally wrong? Has that happened? I mean, can you think of any examples?
Yes. Okay. Are you guys shutting these off?
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay. I thought it was something we were doing. Nice. Well played. That's a good long-running joke right there. So actually, I just got a call from 9 News on the way over here about something election related. That there's a press release that came out earlier, and it's part of my world, part of what I deal with every day. I get a call from a reporter. I also get a call from a neighbor voter on all sides of all different aisles. Happens all the time. Again, at least they're voting, right? So they're complaining and they vote. They're not just complaining. But one of the things that I see now, I did see this when I was much younger and would watch the news, is now it seems as though every broadcast is going for some level of ratings. If you watch some of the newscasters, old Walter Cronkite, that generation from the 50s and 60s and even into the early 70s, it really was, you watch a news story, and if you pull them up on YouTube, you can see them now. They present both sides of an issue as just factual. It wasn't necessarily, I'm sure some bias came in, but now it seems like everything that you see is biased and is trying to sway you one direction or another. Myself, when I'm a Dem, right? But I don't lean left on everything. I'm also a gun owner, right? I also have, certain perspectives that you and I would fully agree on. Where you say some things, I'm like, yeah, I get that, right? Different sides of the aisle. And oftentimes it's just a different means of getting to the same end. We all want a great country. We all want a great community. It's just a slightly different path on how we get there. And sometimes we have to weave it together, and sometimes we leave apart. But one of the things that I've seen the media do over the last many years is really go towards opinion-based news versus fact-based news. And if I could make one request of the media, those of you who are future journalists in here, stick to the facts and try to stay away from the ratings. Right? Because the ratings is where the facts get destroyed, because that's when they're distorted the most. Right? It's when that money comes in and somebody's trying to make a quick buck and influence that are, I think that's where our media is going about. And we've heard a lot about it over the last, 6 years or so? No longer than that. I mean, it's probably the early 2000s. But it's, it definitely much of the news that you see now is very, very influenced. I know if I turn on CNN or MSNBC, I'm going to get a left slant. If I turn on Fox News, I'm going to get a right slant. So the question is, which slant do I want to choose from at this point? Honestly, I would much prefer just to be able to turn on the TV and get no slant and let me make my own decision. I think that's my 2 cents on that.
I think that's exactly right. It's 24/7 cable news. Like, they have to fill all this time now, and that's one of the basic things of media literacy is that know when it's news coverage and know when it's someone's opinion. When there's 5 panelists talking for 20 minutes about one piece of news, guess what? It's not the news anymore. It's just them opining on the news. So I think that's really important. I think, so in general, just on an individual journalist basis, I think most journalists are trying to do a good job, and I haven't particularly had any real issues with journalists at the Capitol. My background is media. I was a comms person, media and communications, and so I dealt with media a lot and trained people on how to deal with media. So I think that, like I said, I think most media are pretty good people and have good intentions. But I think that the now, just in terms of the overarching entities that they belong to, the news organizations, it used to be that media was a public service, and now it's a profit, thing, that they're there to make money. And all these big legacy media companies have owners and have shareholders and all those things. And there's not very little public investment anymore and there's talk of trying to eliminate PBS and stuff. That's a really good news source and something that couldn't continue without public funding. So yeah, I think it's just, again, it goes back to what we're saying, just know what you're looking at, look at all the sides, understand who's supporting what media entity, and reporters, understand what their bias or their slant might be if you're watching something. And that's what I try to do at the Capitol too. Like, honestly, I wouldn't take an interview if I knew that someone was going to be way biased or something. I just want a fair shot. And that means that maybe they interview me and they interview Senator Kirkemeyer on the same topic, right? And just let people decide for themselves.
Yes, those are very good points. So, journalists, just like legislators, your word is your integrity, and it's important that you don't break it. You know what? You lie to a legislator, you print lies, you put a quote in and you take it out of context. You know, there are a lot of us just won't talk to you anymore. Some of us will call you out on it. If you constantly, like down at the Capitol, we have reporters on the floor. So when we're debating, right after we vote on something, they're up there talking to us, wanting a quote. You know, and again, I'm in the minority. Out of the 35 senators, 12 of us are Republican, 23 are Democrats. So, you know, we've got a couple of reporters who like to lean pretty far to the left all the time, or not real far, but they lean a little more left, and they won't even come get a quote from a Republican. So I call them out. I come have a discussion with them and tell them, you know what, if you're going to be in the media and you want a fair quote from everybody and you want to talk to everybody, that's great. If you don't, we'll just ignore you just like you just ignored us. And we'll go talk to somebody else. So trust is extremely important for legislators, and it's just as important for journalists. If you give me your word that I'm off the record and then you put my comment on the record, I'll never talk to you again. Keep that in mindset. But here's the other thing. As elected officials, you know, and really, you know, state senators and such, we get a lot of questions from folks. But my party has a tendency to just not like Kyle Clark. They think that he doesn't treat them fairly. And I would disagree with him. I'd talk to Kyle Clark any day of the week. The guy's very forthcoming. He's honest. Sure, he has some pretty hard-hitting questions. He's not going to let you get away with crap. He's going to call you out on your baggage, right? And I was on during the primary and talked to him that night. We were doing, you know, election results. And, you know, he goes, why do you keep coming back here? And I said, because you asked me. And because we have something in common. He expects people to answer the question. I do too. That bugs the heck out of me. When somebody asks a question, like in a debate or here, and it doesn't get answered, it's like, answer the question, right? And the other thing we have in common is, he doesn't like it when somebody lies to him or tries to evade the question. I'm right there with him. So I told him, I said, I'm the same as you. So when I'm sitting at the Joint Budget Committee, the department head, no, Angie, she doesn't do this. But if a department head doesn't want to tell us the whole truth or try to fudge their way through it, man, I will grill them. And Kyle Clark will too. And I appreciate that. It's honest, it's forthcoming, and I think the public deserves it. Deserves to have the truth, they deserve to have an answer. So, you know, I'd say as long as the journalist is honest, truthful, and forthcoming, I can talk to anyone.
Just want to say that we don't always, the Dems don't always think Kyle Clark treats us fairly either, but you know, we feel the same way sometimes. But overall, that's what it should be. That means he's probably doing his job.
But as Republicans, be back on again. There we go. As Republicans, we loved his coverage on HH. He did phenomenal on it.
Totally concur. Totally concur. Even at the county level, but yeah, Kyle's great. Not always when you're on the receiving end of it, but you always have a good conversation with them. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. This is incredible. The time currently is 7:05 p.m. We're scheduled to end at 7 p.m. So I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank everybody for coming. And you can take, there's lots of food left. Anybody wants food?
And can we just say one last word?
Great. We'd like to thank you. This is phenomenal. This is awesome that you pulled this off and put this together. You know, I would say it's probably some of our favorite thing to do is like we have town hall meetings all the time and have someone else set it up for us. Good job. But here's what was funny is today I was speaking with Joe Garcia, who's the head of the community college system? Chancellor, thank you. He's the chancellor, and I was on the phone with him over some Joint Budget Committee stuff. And he said, he goes, I heard you're on a panel tonight down at Front Range Community College. And I said, yeah. He goes, well, they didn't even let me know.
2 state senators and the governor, and I didn't know. And I was like, well, what do you need to know for? We're on the damn. And I said, and these kids are doing a great job. They got it all lined up. They're gonna have people there. We're gonna get fed. So it's a really good thing. So thank you, Seth, and for your whole team.
Definitely, thank you for putting this on. Very important part of what we do. It was actually having these good, open, honest conversations, answering questions. And, it's kind of nice to actually, we're people too. You get to see us. We're not just, like the person on the ballot. And, so I have a face for radio, but you guys are. No, just thank you. Thanks for taking time out of your evening. I know that there's probably a lot of other things that you have to do or would like to be doing, but it's wonderful to have you here. And thank you for having us.
I also am super grateful for all of you, for Seth and his colleagues for coordinating, putting this on, and you all spending your time. I will never, if there's any way I can do it, I will never turn down an opportunity to talk, especially to young people. This has been a great panel, and any of you ever want to talk about anything, reach out to my office, tell them that, tell my staff you were here, and I love to talk to people about being engaged, and really, really appreciate your participation and your attention as we talk tonight. So thank you, and thanks again.
Bill's active. Or actually, yeah, you can start.